Sergeant Jason Ward stood at the edge of the landing platform, arms crossed, eyes scanning the wide city below. The air on the moon of Cinderol was always grey dusty, dry, and full of old memories from the war. Peace was new here, fragile. And Jason didn't trust it. He wasn't a diplomat. He was a soldier. He had fought in the Battle of Krellies, survived the burning fields of Sector 9, and lost too many friends along the way. Now, the war was over, or so they said. Still, when High Command asked for a volunteer to escort the Varellan ambassador, he was the only one who stepped forward. He didn't like aliens much, but he followed orders. That's what he did. The shuttle landed with a soft hiss, its silver body gleaming even in the dull sky. The ramp opened and she stepped out. Ilari was unlike any alien Jason had seen. Tall, graceful, and glowing slightly with a soft blue light under her pale skin. Her eyes were large, violet, and calm. She wore a long robe woven with golden threads that shimmered when she moved. Jason gave a short nod. "Ambassador," she returned a slight bow. "Sergeant Ward, thank you for meeting me." Her voice was smooth, gentle, but held strength. Jason didn't smile. He just turned and said, "Let's move. The city's not safe for long." They climbed into a ground cruiser, an armored vehicle with tinted windows and light shielding. 2 Terran guards drove while Jason and Ilari sat in the back. The streets were quiet. Too quiet. They passed broken buildings, old war posters, and children playing near rubble. Some stared at the cruiser. Others turned away. Ilari looked out the window, sadness in her eyes. "We could have built something beautiful here," she said softly. Jason didn't answer. He was watching the rooftops. After a few minutes, Ilari spoke again. "Do you always carry that many weapons?" Jason had a rifle across his chest, a sidearm at his waist, and a small knife strapped to his boot. "Just enough to keep you alive," he said. She looked at him, tilting her head. "You don't trust me, do you?" "I don't trust anyone." "On Cinderol," he replied, "not even the air." That made her smile faintly. "At least you're honest." They arrived at the Central District, a once beautiful part of the city, now half rebuilt. The Peace Hall stood tall in the center, made of polished stone and metal, guarded by Terran and Varellan forces. Jason stepped out first, scanning the rooftops. Checking his visor for heat signatures, clear. He opened the door for Ilari. That's when he saw it. A red flicker too fast, too small on a building to the left. "Down!" he shouted. Before she could react, Jason moved. He threw himself in front of Ilari just as the sniper shot fired. A burning pain hit his shoulder. His body twisted, and he fell on top of her, shielding her from a second shot. Screams broke out. Soldiers raised their weapons. Jason gritted his teeth, pulled his sidearm, and fired 3 sharp shots at the rooftop. Silence. Then a body fell. A Varellan sniper-long black coat, high-powered rifle, and strange markings on his face. Jason rolled off Ilari, his arm bleeding. "Sergeant," she gasped, kneeling beside him. "You're hurt." "Just a scratch," he lied, holding pressure on the wound. Ilari looked up at the sniper's body, then back at Jason. "That was one of my people," she whispered, eyes wide with shock. Jason nodded. "Yeah, I noticed." The Terran guards rushed over, weapons raised. Medics followed, patching Jason up as best they could, but his eyes were on Ilari. She looked shaken, confused, hurt in a way that had nothing to do with bullets. "You shouldn't have saved me," she said quietly. Jason looked at her with tired eyes. "I don't leave people behind," he said. "Not even diplomats." For the first time, she truly looked at him, not as a soldier, not as a human, but as someone she didn't fully understand, and in that moment something unspoken passed between them, not trust. Not yet, but something close. The medbay lights were too bright. Jason Ward sat on the edge of the bed, shirt off, as the medic applied a healing patch to his shoulder. The sniper shot had burned through the outer armor, leaving a long, deep wound. It still hurt, but Jason had felt worse. He glanced across the room. Ilari stood by the window, staring out at the skyline of the broken city. She hadn't said much since the attack. Outside, peacekeepers moved in groups. Drones scanned rooftops. The sniper's body had already been taken away, but questions remained. Why would a Varellan try to kill their own ambassador? Jason watched Ilari closely. She seemed lost in thought, calm on the outside, but there was tension in her shoulders. Her hands were folded but tight. Finally she spoke. I knew him. Jason raised an eyebrow. The sniper? She nodded slowly. His name was Elkar. He worked in my father's circle before the war ended. Jason stood, testing his arm. The bandage held. So why would he try to kill you? He asked. Ilari didn't answer right away. She turned to face him, her violet eyes unreadable. There are Varellans who believe peace is a lie, she said. That humans will turn on us again. They think I'm weak for trusting your people. They want the war back. Jason frowned. Sounds familiar. We've got people like that too. She took a step closer. This wasn't just an attack, it was a message. Jason looked down at his wound. Loud message. I need your help. She said suddenly. Jason blinked. You have guards. You have ships? Why me? Because you saved me, she replied. And I believe you care about more than orders. Jason sighed. Look, I'm a soldier, not a spy. If there's a plot, tell command. Let them handle it. I tried, Ilari said, her voice quiet. They told me to stay silent. They don't want anything to ruin the peace talks. Jason rubbed his face. Typical politics. So what are you asking me to do? Ilari stepped even closer. Help me find out who gave the order. Elkar didn't act alone. Jason looked at her. Her face was calm, but her eyes were full of fear and determination. He hated politics. Hated secrets, but he couldn't walk away, not after what happened. Not after seeing her throw herself beside him, help stop the bleeding, and not leave his side all night. He nodded. All right, but we do this off the books. Ilari gave a small, thankful smile. Understood. Just then a soldier entered the room. Sergeant Ward, he said. Command wants a debrief, alone. Jason looked at Ilari. Wait outside. I'll join you soon. She gave a nod and stepped out. The officer stepped forward. He was tall, older, and had the sharp eyes of a man who had seen too much. You okay, Ward? He asked. Been better, Jason said, but I'll live. We reviewed the sniper's body. He's Varellan, all right, but there's no record of him in any diplomatic list. Ambassador Ilari knew him, Jason replied. The officer paused, then leaned closer. Be careful, these peace talks. They're bigger than both of us. A lot of people want them to. Fail, don't get too close to her. Jason raised an eyebrow. Too late for that. The officer frowned, then stepped back. Watch your steps, Sergeant. After he left, Jason walked into the hallway. Ilari waited there, hands folded again. When she saw him, she stood straight. Still want to go through with this? Jason asked. Yes, she said simply. Do you? Jason gave a tired smile. Let's find some answers. That night, they met in secret in an old communication room deep beneath the peace hall. Lights were dim, walls were thick. No one would hear them here. Ilari placed a data chip on the table. Elkar accessed these files 2 days before the attack. I recovered the log. Jason loaded it into his wristpad. The screen showed a list of names human and Varellan. He narrowed his eyes. Some of these people are officers. High rank. This isn't just one sniper, this is a group, Ilari nodded. I believe they're planning something worse. Jason leaned back in his chair, heart pounding. Then we stop them, he said. She looked at him with quiet strength. Together? He nodded, together. Jason Ward sat in the quiet hospital room, staring at the white ceiling. His shoulder still ached, wrapped in a healing patch. But it wasn't the pain that bothered him, it was the silence. He had been a soldier for most of his life. He had seen battlefields covered in fire and dust. He had seen friends fall beside him, but now things were different. The war was over, and he didn't know what to do with peace that felt so dangerous. The door opened softly. Ilari stepped in, her long robe flowing behind her. She carried a small metal flask and a folded cloth. Her steps were silent, like always. I brought this for you, she said, placing the flask on the table. Healing tea? It's Varellan. It helps with pain. Jason gave a tired smile. Thanks. I'm starting to think you're more prepared than the doctors. She poured some into a cup and handed it to him. The tea was a strange blue, glowing faintly, but smelled warm and sweet. He took a sip. It tasted like mint and something he couldn't name. Alari sat in the chair beside him, her hands resting on her lap. You didn't have to stay? Jason said quietly. I wanted to, she replied. You saved my life? Jason looked at her. Her face was calm, but there was something behind her eyes, something heavy. Are you okay? He asked. She hesitated, then nodded. I'm just thinking. About the sniper, about what happens next, she said. If there's a list of names connected to this plan, then someone powerful is trying to destroy the peace. Jason leaned forward. We can take it to command. She shook her head. No, we don't know who we can trust. One of the names on the list was a Terran general, Jason frowned. That explains why they didn't want you to talk. Yes, Alari said. And if they know we're looking, NTO, they'll come for us. Jason stood slowly. Then we move first. Later that evening, they left the hospital using a maintenance exit. Jason wore a dark jacket, hiding his bandaged arm. Alari kept her hood up, her face in shadows. They moved through the lower levels of the city, passing quiet markets and empty alleys. The lights flickered in some places. Still damaged from the war, Jason led her to a hidden workshop in the underground zona. Place where old soldiers and engineers gathered to fix things no one else wanted to touch. An old friend of his, Briggs, worked there. Briggs was human, heavy-built, with grease on his hands and a laugh like thunder. Jason Ward, I thought you were dead. Not yet, Jason said, smiling. I need a favor. Briggs looked at Ilari, then raised an eyebrow. Well, this just got interesting. They explained everything quietly, carefully. Briggs scratched his chin. You're saying a joint Varellan-Terran group is working together to kill the peace deal? That's serious stuff. We need a secure connection, Jason said, and a way to trace the list. We think the names lead to a bigger plan. Briggs nodded. You're lucky. I've been working on an old VNet decoder. Give me the chip. Alari handed it over. Briggs plugged it into his console. The screen flickered, then showed more files. Not just names, but meeting logs, shipment records, and code words. Jason leaned in. What's that, Project Starvale? Briggs clicked the file. It opened a map, a transport ship, military-grade, destination, the capital summit. Jason's blood ran cold. They're moving something to the peace summit, Alari's voice dropped. A weapon? Maybe worse, Jason said. We need to stop it, Briggs frowned. You'll be hunted for this. Jason looked at Ilari. We already are. Outside, a shadow watched them from the rooftops. A drone hovered, silent as a ghost. Its red eye blinked once, recording everything, and then it flew away. Back in the workshop, Ilari placed her hand gently on Jason's arm. Thank you. For what? For not walking away, she said. Jason looked at her, then down at the glowing map. I couldn't walk away. Not now. Ilari smiled faintly. Then we'll face this together? And in that moment, two people won. Human, one Varellan stood side by side, not as enemies, not as tools of war, but as something new. Something the enemy feared. The summit was just one day away. The great halls of New, Cinderella's capital, were being prepared for the arrival of both human and Varellan leaders. Flags of peace waved from tall buildings. Patrol drones floated in the sky. On the surface, everything looked perfect, but Jason Ward knew better. Inside, a hidden transport ship docked at the supply station. Something dangerous was waiting. And someone powerful had ordered it. Jason and Ilari moved fast through the underground levels of the city. With the files from Briggs, they had learned that a secret delivery called Project Starvale was heading toward the summit. No one knew what it was, but from the way the files were locked, it had to be deadly. They didn't have much time. We need to find that ship before it unloads, Jason said, checking his pistol. Once it gets to the Peace Dome, it'll be too late. Alari walked beside him, her eyes sharp. I've contacted someone I trust. She works in cargo control. She can delay the unloading if we get there fast. Jason nodded. Lead the way, They reached the dock level dark, loud, and full of workers moving crates with hoverlifts. Machines hissed and beeped. No one paid attention to the pair in plain clothes. Alari guided them behind a tall stack of containers. There, a Varellan woman in a blue uniform waited. Ambassador, the woman said with a short bow. I heard what happened. I want to help. Show us where the shipment is, Alari said. The woman pulled up a map on her tablet. It's in Dock 17, guarded by Terran security. No scans allowed. Jason frowned. That's not normal. They were given orders from someone above, she added. Someone with clearance codes. Jason felt anger rise in his chest. Someone inside the system was helping this plan? Someone trusted. We need to get inside, he said. Can you give us clearance? The woman hesitated, then nodded. Yes, but you'll only have a few minutes before the next check. That's enough, Jason said. Dock 17 was quiet. Too quiet. Unlike the other docks, it had no workers. Just 2 guards standing by the entrance, holding rifles and scanning anyone who approached. Jason and Ilari waited behind a crate, watching. I'll distract them, Jason whispered. You go inside and check the shipment. Take the data logs. No, Ilari said firmly. We go together. Jason looked at her, then gave a small nod. All right, together. They walked toward the guards, moving calmly. Jason handed over a fake clearance code from Briggs. The guards looked at the screen, then stepped aside. Inside Dock 17, the lights were dim. One large cargo ship rested on the landing pad, its ramp lowered. Ilari scanned the ship's ID. This is it, she said. Project Starvale. Jason crept up the ramp, weapon ready. The ship's cargo hold was filled with black crates, all sealed with bio-locks. He opened one with a stolen code. Inside was a device smooth and glowing faintly red. It looked harmless, but the data tag beside it said otherwise. Bio-neuro scrambler. Prototype. Jason's face went cold. This thing, it can target mines, he said. It doesn't explode. It confuses, controls, maybe kills. Ilari stepped back. If this is released at the summit. They could wipe out every leader in the room, Jason said, and blame it on us. Footsteps echoed outside. Jason closed the crate and turned off his light. He signaled Ilari to stay low. 4 figures entered the ship. All wore black armor with no marks. One of them spoke into a comms device. Shipment is ready. Begin countdown. Jason's heart raced. They were out of time. He turned to Ilari. We can't fight them all. We need to stop the ship from leaving. She looked at the control panel near the cargo bay doors. If I lock the engine code, they won't be able to fly. Can you do it quietly? Jason asked. I can try. She moved fast, fingers dancing across the screen. Jason stayed near. The crates, weapon aimed. Then the screen flashed green. Locked? Ilari whispered. Suddenly, a loud beep echoed in the ship. Hey! One of the guards shouted. Someone's in here! Jason opened fire. The first shot dropped one guard. The second fired back, grazing his side. Ilari ducked, shielding herself behind the console. Jason moved quickly, taking down a second attacker. But there were too many. They returned fire and metal sparked around him. Just then, Ilari raised her hand. A bright light flashed from her skin, blinding in blue. The attackers screamed, covering their eyes. Jason didn't waste the moment. He fired again, hitting the last 2. The cargo bay went silent. Jason lowered his weapon, breathing hard. You ... he asked, staring at her. Ilari nodded, her glow dimming. It's a Varellan defense ability. I hoped I wouldn't need it. Jason chuckled weakly. Remind me never to make you mad. She smiled for a moment, then grew serious. We have to report this. The summit's still in danger. Jason nodded, pain rising in his ribs. Let's finish this. No more hiding. The sun rose over the great city of New Sindaral. Today was the day of the peace summit, the first time human and Varellan leaders would meet inside the Hall of Peace to sign the final treaty. People cheered in the streets, screens showed smiling diplomats, and speeches played on every public speaker. But Jason Ward knew the danger wasn't over. Inside his vest, he carried the stolen data chip, the one with the truth. The files listed every name behind Project Starvale, and the cargo ship filled with dangerous tech meant to end the summit in chaos. Beside him, Alari walked silently. Her eyes were calm, but her mind was sharp. She had not slept much, nor had Jason. There had been no time. They wore simple clothing. No uniforms, no titles. They were not there as soldiers or ambassadors. They were there to stop a disaster. Security will be tight, Jason said, checking the crowd around them. How do we get inside? I have one favor left to call, Alari said softly. An old friend. He works near the council chambers. Jason looked at her. Do you trust him? With my life, she answered. They moved through the crowd, past cheering civilians, and into a quiet alley. There, a Varellan male waited in a long brown coat. He turned as they approached and bowed slightly. Ambassador, I thought you were under protection. I'm not anymore, she replied. We need your help. He listened as they explained. His face grew serious. If this is true, then many leaders, human and Varellan, are not what they appear. That's why we must speak, Jason said, before it's too late. The man nodded. Follow me. Inside the Peace Dome, everything was quiet and shining. White walls, golden light, and soft music filled the air. Hundreds of guests had arrived. Diplomats, commanders, scientists, and leaders from both species. Cameras floated in the air, broadcasting live to billions of homes across the galaxy. On the main stage, the Varellan High Chancellor stood beside the Terran President. Both smiled and waved. Jason and Ilari stood in a hidden corner, watching. From the shadows, this place feels too perfect, Jason muttered. It's the calm before the storm, Ilari replied. Her contact handed her a small device. This will connect to the main screen. If you press this, your message will play across the domain to the entire galaxy. Jason took a breath. Are we ready for this? Ilari looked up at him. Once we begin, there's no going back. He gave a small smile. Then let's end it right. She pressed the button. Suddenly, the lights dimmed, the music stopped, and the large screen behind the stage flickered to life. A video began to play, images of the cargo ship, lists of names, logs of secret meetings. The crowd began to murmur. Then Alari's voice came through the speakers. This is Alari, Sotel, daughter of Halcyon and human soldier Jason Ward. We bring truth. Not to destroy peace, but to protect it. Faces in the crowd turned. Jason stepped forward. His voice followed. We discovered a plan to use a hidden weapon during this summit, a device called Project Starvale. If it had succeeded, every leader in this room could have been hurt or worse, the crowd gasped. On screen, footage showed masked attackers from the cargo bay, the stolen logs, and the warning labels on the deadly tech. We were nearly killed trying to stop this, Ilari said. And some of those who planned it are among us now. Suddenly, shouting filled the room. Guards ran to the stage. Several officials stood up, angry, some afraid. Then the Terran president raised his hand. Let them finish, she said. Jason stepped closer to the microphone. Not every human and not every Varellan is guilty, but peace built on lies will not last. We risked everything to tell you the truth. Silence followed. Then Ilari stepped up beside him. You may not believe. U.S., she said, but look at the evidence. Judge it yourself. If you want true peace, it must begin with honesty. For a long moment, the room stayed quiet. Then the High Chancellor stepped forward. He looked at the screen. Then at Ilari, and finally he spoke. Bring me those responsible. Cheers and gasps echoed. Security teams moved fast. The names on the list were real. And now the traitors had nowhere to hide. Jason stepped back, finally breathing again. Ilari looked at him, her eyes soft. You did it, she whispered. No, Jason said. We did it. Hours later, after the summit was saved and the traitors were taken into custody, Jason and Ilari sat on a quiet balcony. Away from the cameras and crowds, the stars shone above. You never gave up, Jason said. Neither did you, she replied. He looked at her, tired but smiling. So what now? Ilari looked out at the lights of the city. Now we build something better. And for the first time in years, Jason believed it was possible. Together, a soft wind passed through the quiet gardens behind the Peace Dome. It carried the scent of new flowers and fresh leaves. The war was over, the danger had passed. And now, for the first time in a long while, everything felt calm. Jason Ward sat on a stone bench under a silver-leaved tree. He wore a light jacket, no weapons, no armor. Just peace, his shoulders still ached from the sniper wound, and his body was tired, but his mind was clear. The summit had ended peacefully. The leaders had heard the truth. The traitors behind Project Starvale were arrested. Some tried to escape, but most were caught within hours, and now the galaxy had seen what unity really looked like: two people from different worlds standing together, side by side. For truth, he looked up as footsteps approached. It was Ilari. She wore a soft blue robe, her silver hair gently moving in the wind. Her eyes were brighter than ever, calm and strong. "Mind if I join you?" she asked. Jason smiled. "Always." She sat beside him. For a moment they just listened to the sound of birds and leaves. No words were needed. Then Ilari spoke. "The peace treaty was signed this morning, quietly, no cameras." Jason raised an eyebrow. "Really? After all that, they didn't want a big speech?" "They did," she said with a smile. "But the leaders agreed this wasn't about showing off. It was about starting fresh, humble, and honest." Jason nodded. "Good, flashy speeches don't change hearts. Actions do." Ilari turned to him. "And you acted when no one else did. You protected me, trusted me, even when it almost cost your life." He looked at her. "You did the same for me. I was just a soldier, but you saw more." She smiled, gently, "because you were more." Jason stood slowly and walked toward the edge of the garden, looking at the city beyond. "Do you think this peace will last?" he asked. Ilari joined him. "Peace is never perfect. There will always be challenges, but now people believe it can happen. That's a beginning." Jason took a deep breath. "So what happens now?" She turned to face him fully. "I was asked to join the new Peace Council," she said, "to help guide future talks between our people." "That's a big role," he said. "I accepted." Jason looked at her, proud. "You'll do great." Then she reached into her pocket and handed him something, a small metal badge with a star and a leaf crossed over each other. "What's this?" he asked. "A new task force," she said. "They need someone who's not just a soldier but a protector. Someone who knows how to fight, but also how to listen." Jason turned the badge over in his hand. "You want me to join?" "I do," Ilari said, "but only if you choose to." "You've done more than enough. You could walk away now." Jason looked down at the badge, then at her. "I thought about leaving," he said. "Going somewhere quiet, far from all this." "And?" she asked. He smiled. "Then I realized peace is worth staying for, and ... So are the people who believe in it." Ilari's eyes softened. "I'm glad." They stood there for a while, watching the city light up as the sun began to set. The war was behind them. Ahead was something new, something fragile but real. Then Jason spoke, quieter this time. "You once said I saved your life. But you saved mine too." Ilari looked at him gently. "We saved each other," he chuckled. "So, partners?" She reached out her hand. "Partners." He shook it, firm and warm, and as the stars began to rise in the darkening sky, two souls, once enemies from two worlds, stood together. Not as soldier and ambassador, not as human and alien, but as friends. As protectors of peace, and maybe, just maybe, something more someday. But for now, peace was enough, and they would walk forward, side by side, into a new dawn, together.